This is episode 42 of Ralph's Stuff, and it consists in the vast majority, as a video essay on rain. In other words, I sat in the doorway while it was raining today, since the drought has broken and we got a lot of rain, and we discussed that and a number of other things, which I hope you enjoyed during the show. Thank you very much. Well, hello. This is sort of a little verbal essay on rain. And we've had a lot of drought here in western North Carolina over the past summer. In fact, had about 3 months without significant rainfall. And today, when I got up, it was raining pretty hard, and it's still raining. You can look outside and through the doorway, which is open. And I hope I'm not too backlit that you can see my face okay. Not that that's a major benefit, but something you want to happen in TV shows. But I thought this would make a nice time for me to talk about rain. You see, I've always liked rain. I don't know why, but when I was a little boy growing up, the thunder of the rain on the roof, and especially rain on a tin roof, like on one of the barns on the farm here. Oh, I love that, and I still do. In fact, I've been thinking it's getting about time to put a new roof on my house. The old roof's been there about 30 years, and I'm seriously thinking about putting on tin. Well, this new type of tin that I forget what they call it, but it's green or red, or much better than the old tin that rusted so quickly that we used to put on roofs back when in the 50s and 60s and so forth. So anyway, I like the sound of rain, I like the smell of rain, I like the wash of a gentle rain on my face. I don't like getting it on my glasses, which is why I wear this hat when it rains. Normally outside. I'm sitting in the doorway now. I'm actually inside, and it's just sort of drizzling now. It's not raining as hard as it was earlier today, but we hope to get some more. Now, this rain is primarily, I think, from Umberto, the sudden hurricane that hit Texas, and now 3 days later we're getting some rain from it here in western North Carolina. Badly needed rain. The farmers have been really hurting for rain. They're having to ship hay in from other parts of the country, and it's just it's just been a rough summer. Of course, there's a lot of crops that it's too late to save, unfortunately, I'm afraid. I know this. Now, I get out and drive in the mountains quite a bit on business and for recreation, and I notice there are a lot of people, especially up in Madison and Yancey County and places like that, they're still growing tobacco. Tobacco's unregulated now, so you can grow it whenever you like, or however much you like. But I'm having been raised on a farm, and we farm tobacco for 20-some years. I'm rather an expert on how high tobacco should be this time of year, and it's real low. So it's the plants are pretty scraggly compared to what they would be in a normal year. Now, a lot of people worry about the fact there's been such a drought. By the way, I'm drinking coffee. Coffee's good. I like coffee. Robust. Good stuff. I like nice, strong black coffee. But this is unusual. This part of the country, western North Carolina, the mountains here of western Carolina and eastern Tennessee and northern Georgia, northern Alabama, all those places have mountains, believe it or not. But this area right here where we live has the highest, I shouldn't wave with this, I guess this is my remote control for the camera. But this area has the highest annual rainfall, second highest annual rainfall to be precise, in the continental U.S. I've mentioned this on a number of shows before. Only the Olympia Peninsula in Washington, D.C. Let's correct that. Only the Olympia Peninsula in Washington State has more rain than here in Western North Carolina. Washington, D.C. has more hot air than just about anywhere else in the country. That's that's their claim to fame. So even when we have a drought, and I remember other years, I remember a year back in the 70s when it was dry all summer and farmers had to ship in hay like they're having to now. But even when we have really strong, harsh drought conditions like we have had this summer, without a doubt about it, we still get some rain and things still stay reasonably green simply because we have more rain than anywhere else. And you know, a drought like we're having here, they wouldn't notice in New Mexico or Wyoming or somewhere like that has a lot less vegetation than we do here. West Texas, for example, I spent a year in West Texas back in the 80s, and you talk about places dry, that's dry. The only rain they get is when the water fountain flows over. You know, it's that bad. So while we have had it rough here, and the farmers have lost a lot of money, unfortunately, due to the drought and the crops failing and whatnot, still we've had it easier than if we didn't live in this particular area. All that said, you know, there's no substitution for a good rain. What my father used to call a good soaking rain, and that's a slow, steady rain that lasts for a long time and really gets in the ground instead of hitting it hard and running off down into the streams or washing mud into your neighbor's pasture or something, rather than staying around and doing some good. So I would say that we're getting a pretty nice soaking rain. I hope it picks back up, and it may have a little bit here. It looks pretty good out there. I don't have the camera on it, but there's a ditch full of water running down just beyond where I'm sitting. It comes from under the driveway. That's my driveway. You're seeing the paved portion you're seeing behind me. So, but anyway, getting back to liking rain, I mentioned I spent a year in El Paso. I was engaged to write a book out there, and it was quite a nice experience, full expense account, had a condo of my own. It was a good experience, except it was dry. I mean, it rained one time when I was there, and they thought, the people I was working with thought I was crazy because I went out and stood in the rain there. It wasn't rain, it was really just a little shower, but everybody was that lived in West Texas, they weren't used to stuff like that, so they were getting away from it so their skin wouldn't get wet. I like the air that's laden with moisture, that it's just so easy to breathe when it rains. It just feels good. That's one reason I've got the door sitting here open and the air conditioning turned off. It's just got a nice little breeze coming through here. It just feels great. It's wonderful. Rain is wonderful. So I've never been one of those who want to see a lot of sun, which means I'll probably never move to Arizona or California or somewhere like that where you have more sun than rain. I'll probably stay right here in North Carolina and enjoy all this good rain coming in. If you guys were here, if you were only here, I would offer you some of this coffee. It's good stuff. I make it myself. So, grow the beans. No, I don't grow the beans, but I wish you could grow coffee beans in Western North Carolina. The climate's just not right. Two things I've always wanted to grow as a farmer, and that's coffee and chocolate. But unfortunately, neither one works well here. So we, when I was growing up, we had cows and raised tobacco, and those were our cash crops. Now my cash crops is publishing books and doing videos, which is a whole lot easier than other types of farming, but still takes a little effort. However, I am considering buying a tractor again, and just to do bush hogging around the farm and things like that to help keep it looking good. I really do have coffee in here now. I can remember watching the Jackie Gleason show on TV years ago, and he always had a coffee cup, but everybody knew he didn't have coffee in his. How sweet it is! Black coffee. I drink my coffee black. I don't dilute it with cream or sugar or any of that other stuff, or flavorings, or just good old black coffee. There goes a car down the road. My goodness. You'd think it's a public highway, wouldn't you? Oh, it is public highway. Oh well. Really good stuff. Really, really, really fine stuff. But I also like it after it rains. Everything that was turning brown suddenly turns green again. I can look through the window. There's a window in my view here, and I can look through it at my yard. My yard had gotten just slightly brown, not very much, not as bad as it had. I've seen it in previous years, but you can almost see it growing now. You know, it's going to be another big mowing. I have almost 2 acres of yard, so I don't know why I've got such a big yard. It just kept expanding on me, and I kept thinking, well, that area over there would look nice if it was part of the lawn also. So we have the publishing company buildings, and as well as the old barns, and of course the house that Pat and I live in. So we got a lot of lawn and a lot of places to mow, and it's definitely the grass is definitely going to shoot up after this rain. We're going to have more places. We're going to have to mow again, but hey, we got riding lawnmower. And besides, I usually hire some people to mow it anyway, so do a fine job. So that's really a minor consideration. Let it rain, indeed, let it rain. We need the rain. Yes. Let's see, what else haven't I covered? Obviously, I'm just ad-libbing here. As I said at the start, this is a verbal essay about rain and many other topics also. I can see it's still raining a little bit. I can see it again through the window, hitting on the asphalt just outside the window and the parking spaces for this office building. Coffee is good. I like coffee in the morning. Try not to drink it too late at night or I don't sleep. That's the general idea of drinking coffee, right? You want it to perk you up. Now you take a nice big cup of coffee like this. This is a little bit bigger cup than normal. I can get when I'm writing, I can get about 1,500 words out of a cup of coffee this size. Or when I'm doing a verbal essay about rain, I can get, if I can read the monitor from this far away, I get about 10 minutes or so, at least. I think that's right. I've been talking for quite a while. I don't know, maybe shorter than that. No, I've gotten, according to my screen, 13 minutes already. So, that's not too bad. Coming right along. Of course, I've got a 30-minute show here to fill up. I'm going to have to think of some other stuff to talk about. A lot of people, though, who live in Western North Carolina, especially new builders who are used to the flatlands and stuff, they don't really realize the amount of precipitation we have a year. Not only the rain in the spring, summer, and fall, but also snow in the winter can at times be heavy. And they don't do adequate drainage. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy about runoff and stormwater and so forth. I know the city of Asheville is doing some regulations on it that are not particularly realistic in my opinion, but there is a problem, And the problem can be alleviated if people just put in proper ditching and culverts and the other things that any property owner should do. You know, I've certainly, over the years, my father before me, we've certainly made sure that we had ditches and culverts under the driveways and the other things we need to make sure that when we do have a heavy rain, it doesn't do damage. The water, the excess water, has a place to go. You want all the water you can to soak into the ground, but especially if the ground's been dry for a long time, it resists the water soaking in and it runs off. It just flows over it. So you get these little streams all over, and if you don't have a place for this excess water to easily go, it makes a place for itself. It digs ditches and washes under foundations and actually does damage. So take a look at the drainage off your yard and the rest of your property. Make sure that you've got good ditches, and if not, dig them or pay somebody to dig them if you don't want to do it yourself. But that's what goes a truck. That was a truck, a delivery van of some sort. I just got a glimpse of it. So, but anyway, ditching is important in rains. And of course you want to make sure your roofs are good and maintained good. We have shingle roofs on the house, and I've lived in that house for over 60 years now, all the time I was growing up, and it's always been my permanent residence. So I'm pretty familiar with the roof. We've replaced the roof over the years 3 or 4 times, and it's, as I mentioned, it's getting about time to do it again. So I've been looking at the roof. I have several barns that need some roofing work done on them, and just not sure whether it's worth the money to refurbish the old barns. They're not structurally sound enough to turn into housing or something like that. I wish they were, but with all the way regulations have gotten in building codes and the like, it's cheaper to build something new than to refurbish an old building, which is really a shame. We lose a lot of good buildings that way because the old buildings, the ones built in the late 19th century, early 20th century, were built to much higher standards as far as the size of the rafters and the quality of materials used, solid wood instead of particle board, and etc., etc. It's a shame to lose some of those old buildings. If it wasn't for the building codes that are more oriented towards modern building materials, we could save a lot of buildings that would be quite good for several hundred years yet. Good stuff. Coffee is good. So let's see what else we can say. You got any questions? Well, you can't ask me because this show's being filmed. It's not live TV. I am working on a way to do live TV from here and have it shown on Channel 20 by sending the video over the internet, and we'll eventually get all the technicalities worked out on that. I'm pretty close already. And then I'll be able to sit here and prattle on about rain and whatever, and live with the number on the screen where you can call in or have a talk show. So maybe we'll have that done by the first snow this year, and we can talk about snow. Lots of interesting things to talk about here in North Carolina. We haven't even talked about trees yet today, or bushes, or weeds. Weeds are always interesting to talk about. Those of us with a bit of acreage that, in fact, too much acreage to keep all of it cleaned up, we're well familiar with weeds. I probably have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. I probably own maybe 1 million or more weeds. Think about that. That's downright frightening, isn't it? And what can you do with weeds? Let them grow. And hope they migrate over to somebody else's property eventually. I guess. Hey, there goes a squirrel. got a big maple tree in my yard, and I saw a squirrel run down the maple tree and run across the yard. He's not going to find many nuts in the maple tree, but there is a walnut tree on over, not too far from the maple tree. Oh, there he goes back to the maple tree, though. He's climbing up the maple tree. Well, anyway, you got to look for nuts, I guess, wherever you look for them. Squirrels are starting to store up stuff for the winter. Yeah, he went up the tree. I guess that's a fallen limb or something. I thought he might still be down the base, but he's not. So anyway, I think I'll have a cup of coffee. That would be good. This is, wow, I've been talking for several minutes. 20 minutes. 20 minutes and 32 it won't stay still, 37 seconds, 38 seconds to be precise. Nope, now it's 43 seconds. Oh well. But been talking longer than I thought. This is really, first of all, it's entertainment for you guys. You're watching it, right? I hope you're enjoying it. And secondly, it's an exercise for me in speaking, especially extemporaneous speaking. Just sitting here and talking for 20 minutes straight. When I first started doing video shows for Channel 20, and that was just last year, I wasn't used to speaking for recording. You know, I'm a writer. I can turn out 4,000 or 5,000 words a day, and most of them will make sense, but I had trouble getting 30 seconds, 40 seconds, or even a minute straight speaking without just running out of something to say and having to stop the camera and restart again, or else actually be reading from a teleprompter. I have a pretty nice teleprompter set up. But as I've continued doing this, these shows for you guys, and I've done over 150 shows now for URTV. This will be in Ralph Stuff number 42. I've done, so I will have done 42 shows just of that, and I've done 28 Rapid Ralphs now. Rapid Ralph Runs the Roads, which is on every Saturday at 6 p.m. here on Channel 20 in Asheville, North Carolina, the land of the sky. And let me see a show of hands out there. How many of you know where the name the land of the sky came from? Why is this area called the land of the sky? Yeah, okay, there's one person that knows at least. I just dropped my remote control. Well, that's alright, I don't need it until I finish anyway. There was an author in the 19th century named Christian Reed. Christian Reed wrote popular novels of the time, and wrote about 35, 40 of them, quite a few. Was well known nationally. And Christian Reed was actually a lady from Salisbury, North Carolina, as a matter of fact. And in the early 1870s, she decided to take a trip to the western North Carolina mountains. You can imagine the conditions of the roads, what few there were up here at that time. But she came up here and spent several weeks and wrote a long article for Appleton's magazine, which appeared in the early 1870s. And then she turned all the material she gained into a novel that was entitled, wait for it, The Land of the Sky. And it was published in 1875. And that's where the name, The Land of the Sky, comes from. The novel was well received in this area. And from that time on, people began referring to the western North Carolina mountains in Asheville as the land of the sky. And if you get up on the parkway early one morning and you see the clouds down in the mountains, and the mountains look like islands in a sea of cloud, you'll quickly realize why this is the land of the sky. So there you've got that bit of trivia. And today, Christian Reed is not very widely known, but the novel The Land of the Sky is still known. Most of her other novels have sunk into obscurity. So, lots of interesting stuff about the mountains here. I had a good time last night. I was invited to the Alexander Alliance group at the French Broad Volunteer Fire Department, one of our fine volunteer fire departments out here in the county, and they asked me to speak about the history of Alexander. Well, I've lived in Alexander since I was 3 months old in 1946, so I know quite a bit about the history, and of course did more research from places like Dr. Sonley's History of Buncombe County, which published in, even though it was published in 1930, is still the definitive work on the history of Buncombe County and Alexander and the other smaller towns in Buncombe County, such as Iceville. So I was able to discourse learnedly and, according to them at least, in an interesting manner on the history of Alexander, which is quite interesting. One thing, this is diverging from the topic of rain, but that's okay, it's my show, I can diverge. One interesting thing was the way people got across the rivers, across the French Broad River back in the early 19th century. They started out building ferries, which were just little flat-bottom boats that they had ropes strung across the river, and somebody'd pull the ferry across the river by pulling on the rope, and they took people and horses in wagons across that way. But there wasn't very many of these ferries. There was one in Iceville, which was built by a gentleman named Captain Sams. Captain Sams built a ferry where Smith Bridge is today. And then Colonel Garman built a ferry at Craigie, which is very near where I live. And of course James Mitchell Alexander, for whom the town of Alexander is named, built a ferry at Alexander, and then there was one down in Marshall. So it went over a 15 or 20 mile stretch of the French Broad River. There were only 4 ways to get across easily without swimming, and that was these ferries. And by the Civil War, they'd turned the ferries into bridges. Alexander built a bridge at Alexander. It was called, Mr. Alexander built a bridge. It was called Alexander's Bridge. Colonel Garman had built a bridge at Craigie, which was called Garman's Bridge. And the bridge had been built where Captain Sams had his ferry, and it was called Smith's Bridge. I don't know why, I'll have to look that up. But it wasn't Sam's Bridge. And so people started going across the bridges. I'm sure they were just plank bridges and maybe one lane, not too big. But then the Civil War came along, and here in the mountains, us mountain folks, to us, you know, the Civil War was last week. It wasn't long ago. But a gentleman named Colonel Isaac Kirby, who commanded the 101st Ohio Infantry, he came up from Tennessee, up along the French Broad River, and when he got to Alexander, he burned the bridge. Then he went on up a ways and stole some horses. In fact, he stole some horses from one of Dr. Sonley's ancestors, and he was still wroth about it even in 1930. And then the colonel continued on up and burned the bridge at Craigie, and then proceeded on up to, and fit, as we say here in the North Carolina mountains, for fight. He fit the Battle of Iceville. The Battle of Iceville was the only real engagement in the Civil War locally, and it was more of a little skirmish than an actual battle. Go to ralphwroberts.com to see this show again.